Crypto millionaires are dying under mysterious, chilling circumstances. But who is pulling the strings? Each shocking death leaves behind a trail of unanswered questions and a terrifying pattern that's too eerie to ignore. In a world where fortunes rise and fall with a click, powerful forces lurk in the shadows, ready to do anything to retain control. This isn't just about stealing wealth. It's about eliminating those who threaten the old order. What happens when the digital frontier is marked by blood? The truth is darker than you can imagine. Chapter 1. The Price of Digital Fortune. It starts with whispers, a drowning here, a suicide there, a missing person whose last message reads like a warning no one took seriously. The world of cryptocurrency has always been volatile, a place where fortunes rise and collapse in an instant. But for a select group of individuals, the stakes have become more than financial. They become fatal. The promise of crypto was simple: decentralization. No banks, no oversight, no gatekeepers. A revolution of wealth, created by those who dare to challenge the system. In the early days, they were hackers, libertarians, and visionaries. They built empires from nothing but an idea and an internet connection. Some turned their risk into unimaginable wealth. Digital fortunes secured by passwords only they knew. But with great wealth comes attention, and not all attention is welcome. Traditional billionaires have layers of protection. Armored cars, private security, a wall of institutions shielding them from harm. But crypto moguls? Many flaunted their success online, showing off their exotic cars, luxury penthouses, and bank-breaking watches. They made enemies without realizing it. They trusted that their digital wealth made them untouchable. But the blockchain doesn't care who you are. Neither do those who see an opportunity in silence and secrecy. At first, the death seemed random. A young entrepreneur found dead on a beach, his final tweets filled with paranoia. Another found floating in the ocean, his body carrying no signs of struggle. A third, supposedly lost to a sudden illness, his fortune vanishing with him. Official explanations followed: suicide, accidents, health complications. But the deeper you look, the harder it is to believe. One man was last seen entering his penthouse apartment, security cameras capturing nothing unusual. The next morning, he was found in a locked bathroom, his body crumpled on the floor. No forced entry, no sign of struggle, just a fortune in cryptocurrency left untouched, but inaccessible. Another was vacationing in a tropical paradise, living the dream. He stepped out for a swim and never returned. When his body washed up, there were no signs of trauma, no definitive cause of death. Friends said he had been anxious in his final days, talking about powerful forces watching him, about something he couldn't quite explain. Then he was gone. A third was flying home from a business trip. The pilot scheduled to fly the aircraft canceled at the last minute. The replacement took off with his high-profile passenger on board. The crash was ruled an accident. No foul play. But those who knew him said he had been worried. He had mentioned things he wasn't supposed to talk about. Then the wreckage was found, and his secrets, whatever they were, died with him. The methods vary. Some disappear without a trace. Their last messages cryptic, their bodies never found. Others are discovered in ways too brutal to be ignored. Cases that can't be brushed off as simple bad luck. Sometimes, the deaths look self-inflicted, but the circumstances don't add up. A wealthy trader jumps from a high-rise balcony, but friends insist he wasn't suicidal. Another supposedly overdoses, yet those closest to him claim he never touched drugs. A body turns up in an abandoned building, weeks after the victim was last seen alive, but the official cause of death remains uncertain. Patterns begin to form. These aren't petty investors. These are men and women who held power, not just money but knowledge. Some controlled billions in crypto assets, secured by private keys known only to them. Some had built platforms that rivaled traditional finance. Others had spoken openly about the dark side of the industry: corruption, government interference, and hidden forces operating in the shadows. And then there were the warnings. Tweets sent hours before death, rambling but eerily precise. Mentions of intelligence agencies, secret organizations, or powerful enemies. claims that they were being followed, that something was coming. Messages deleted. Accounts wiped clean. Stories that never made it past the local news. The official reports tell one story. The evidence suggests another. Some of these deaths could be coincidence. Some could be the price of reckless living. But all of them? The numbers are too high. The similarities too strange. There are theories. Assassinations masked as accidents. Rivals taking out competition in a lawless industry where trust is paper thin. Organized crime using the perfect cover of digital anonymity. And then there are those who whisper about something even bigger. That some of these people knew things they weren't supposed to. That they had stumbled on secrets buried deep beneath the surface of the financial world. That crypto was never truly outside the system, but was instead the perfect tool for those who knew how to manipulate it. The digital age has created new kings, people who built fortunes not with oil or steel, but with ones and zeros. But history has shown that kings who rise too fast often fall just as quickly. Some of these deaths might have been inevitable. The pressure, the paranoia, the knowledge that a single misplaced trust could mean disaster. But others, the ones that seem too sudden, too violent, too perfectly timed, they leave behind only questions. In the old world, wealth was power, and power was protected. In the new world of crypto, wealth can be lost in an instant, and power makes you a target. When no one controls the system, no one controls what happens when things go wrong. No government agency is coming to help. No central bank is going to bail you out. And if someone wants you gone, there's nothing standing in their way. The bodies keep piling up. The fortunes remain untouched. And the digital empire continues, unfazed, as if nothing ever happened. The price of digital fortune is higher than anyone ever imagined. Chapter 2. The Suitcase Murder. Fernando Pérez Algaba. Fernando Pérez Algaba was a self-made crypto millionaire who had it all. Supercars, lavish parties, and nearly 1 million Instagram followers watching his every move. But on July 23, 2023, children playing by a stream in Argentina stumbled upon a suitcase. Inside, packed with eerie precision, were the dismembered remains of the millionaire. The gruesome nature of his murder sent shockwaves through the crypto world. The cuts were clean, the body meticulously separated. This was not the work of an amateur. It wasn't an act of passion. It was a message. Someone had taken their time, ensuring the horror would be discovered in a way that left no room for doubt. This was calculated. This was professional. Algaba had made a fortune in cryptocurrency, flaunting his wealth at every opportunity. Ferraris, designer clothes, private jets, his lifestyle was as loud as his success. But beneath the glittering surface, trouble had been brewing. He was drowning in debt. He owed millions to dangerous people, including members of Argentina's notorious Barra Brava, the violent, mafia-like factions controlling the country's football hooligan scene. They weren't just rowdy sports fans. They were criminals with connections in drug trafficking, extortion, and contract killings. His social media, once filled with luxury and bravado, had taken a darker turn in the months before his death. Cryptic messages about betrayal, warnings that he was being threatened. But even then, he kept up the illusion, smiling in selfies, posting motivational quotes about wealth and success. If he knew the end was near, he didn't let it show. Authorities pieced together his final days. Witnesses saw him arriving in Buenos Aires for a supposed business meeting. Surveillance footage captured him walking into an apartment complex. He never walked out. The next time anyone saw him, it was in pieces, packed into suitcases, left for children to find. Theories swirled. Was it the work of the criminals he owed money to? A punishment for failing to pay his debts? Or was there more to the story? Some whispered of crypto scams gone wrong, of powerful figures who had lost fortunes because of him. His investments had not always been as sound as they seemed. He had enemies beyond the football gangs, people who operated in the shadows, who didn't just take back what they were owed, but who made sure their victims became warnings for others. The autopsy revealed chilling details. No immediate signs of struggle. No defensive wounds. It suggested he had been subdued, perhaps drugged, restrained, before the butchery began. His killers had taken their time. The murder had been efficient, methodical. This wasn't a botched robbery. It wasn't random violence. It was a message. The case gripped Argentina. Who had ordered the killing? Who had carried it out? The police rounded up suspects, raided properties, interrogated associates. But in a country where power and crime often blurred together, where money could buy silence, answers remained elusive. Those who might have spoken up chose not to. His social media was flooded with theories. Some claimed he had faked his own death to escape mounting debts. Others believed he had been targeted for knowing too much about crypto laundering, about hidden financial crimes. The truth remained buried beneath layers of fear and corruption. The discovery of his body was just the beginning. The real mystery was why he had to die, and who exactly had decided his time was up. The crypto world had always been volatile, but this was something else. This was a warning, and it wouldn't be the last. Chapter 3, Drowned in Secrets, Nikolai Mushegian. The waves rolled in gently that morning, the kind of calm, postcard-perfect scene that Puerto Rico is known for. The sun glowed off the ocean's surface, a deceptive tranquility masking what was about to unfold. On October 28, 2022, Nikolai Mushegian, a 29-year-old crypto millionaire, left his luxurious $6 million mansion in the ritzy Condado neighborhood for a walk. He often strolled along the beach, sometimes wading into the ocean to swim. But this time, he never returned. A few hours later, his body was found face down in the water. His wallet was still on him, so were his keys. No signs of a struggle, no indications of a robbery. Just a man, a genius in the world of cryptocurrency, dead in the surf like a discarded doll. At first glance, it could have been an accident. Maybe a strong current had pulled him under. Maybe he had suffered a medical emergency. But then the questions started, and they didn't stop. Mushegian wasn't just another tech entrepreneur with an interest in blockchain. He was a brilliant, eccentric mind, a developer who had helped design some of the most secure and decentralized financial systems in the world. He had spent years working on projects meant to disrupt traditional banking and make transactions independent of governments and financial institutions. But he had also become increasingly erratic in his online presence. Just hours before his death, Mushegian posted a tweet so disturbing, it sent chills through those who knew him. CIA and Mossad and pedo elite are running some kind of sex trafficking entrapment blackmail ring out of Puerto Rico and Caribbean islands. They're going to frame me with a laptop planted by my ex-girlfriend, who was a spy. They will torture me to death. It was not the first time he had expressed paranoia about being targeted. Friends recalled his growing fears that powerful forces were watching him. He spoke of conspiracies, of being followed, of people trying to silence him. Was it all in his head? Or had he uncovered something truly dangerous? Mushegian had money. He had influence. But he also had a mind that worked at a different speed than most. Those close to him described him as brilliant but troubled, someone who saw patterns in chaos. His concerns about intelligence agencies and banking elites weren't random. He had spent years working in crypto, a world that, for all its utopian promises, was filled with sharks. Governments wanted control. Criminals wanted access. The people creating these decentralized systems stood in the middle, easy targets if they became too much of a problem. His death immediately raised suspicions among the crypto community. Some pointed to his tweet as an eerie prophecy. Others noted how many crypto figures had died under strange circumstances in recent years. It wasn't just Mushegian, there was a pattern. But authorities didn't see a conspiracy. The police ruled it an accidental drowning. No foul play. Case closed. But something didn't add up. Mushegian was an excellent swimmer. The waters off Condado Beach were known to be dangerous. But for an experienced swimmer, it was unusual. His paranoia about being targeted had escalated dramatically in the weeks leading up to his death. He had cut off communication with some people, withdrawn from certain projects. His tweets became darker, filled with warnings and cryptic statements about elite forces and assassinations. If he had been murdered, it was the perfect crime. No struggle, no forced entry, no witnesses. Just a man walking into the ocean and never walking out. If there had been any sign of a staged suicide or an attack, it was erased by the tide. Mushegian's death left a gaping hole in the crypto world. He had been working on projects that could have changed financial systems forever, making them even more untouchable by governments. Some believe that made him a threat. Was his final tweet the desperate warning of a man who knew he was about to die? The answer drowned with him, lost to the sea. Chapter 4. The Man Who Knew Too Much, Javier Biosca. Javier Biosca was a man who thrived in the shadows of the financial world. He wasn't a Silicon Valley genius or a charismatic crypto evangelist. He was something else, a financial ghost. A man who built a fortune by promising the impossible and vanishing when the walls started closing in. His rise was meteoric. Biosca claimed to have discovered a near mystical formula for guaranteed profits in cryptocurrency. He lured investors with the promise of astronomical returns, convincing them that his knowledge of blockchain trading could make them rich beyond their wildest dreams. And for a while it worked. He lived like a king, luxury cars, private jets, designer suits. His name carried weight in exclusive circles, and he walked among the powerful and dangerous as if he belonged there. But there was a problem. His empire wasn't built on innovation or brilliance. It was built on deception. The money flowing in wasn't from clever trading, it was from other investors, funneled in a classic Ponzi scheme. When the payouts stopped and the cracks began to show, those who had trusted him wanted answers. They wanted their money back, and some of them weren't the kind of people you disappoint. As pressure mounted, Biosca did what con men do best. He ran. Spain, Gibraltar, Portugal. He moved between luxury villas and exclusive resorts, trying to keep ahead of the inevitable. But he wasn't just evading furious investors. Authorities were closing in too. He had swindled hundreds of millions from an array of clients, some of whom had connections to politicians, organized crime, and even drug cartels. There were whispers that he had struck deals with dangerous people, that he had laundered money for groups that would not tolerate betrayal. He was not just a man running from debt. He was a man carrying secrets that could burn some of the most powerful figures in Europe. And then, in December 2022, he was found dead. The setting was almost too perfect, an exclusive luxury resort on the Costa del Sol, the kind of place where the rich disappear into a world of quiet opulence. According to official reports, Biosca had leaped to his death from a balcony. A suicide, they said, a desperate man who saw no other way out. But no one really believed it. Biosca had been on the run, but he was also a man who knew too much. He had ties to financial elites, criminal syndicates, and corrupt politicians. He held the keys to an empire of fraud, an empire that others had profited from just as much as he had. And when the moment came, when the noose tightened around his neck, he didn't get the chance to tell his side of the story. The details surrounding his death were hazy. No security footage was released. Witness accounts were vague, inconsistent. The resort was known for discretion, for handling things quietly. There were whispers of a meeting gone wrong, of people who wanted to ensure Biosca never spoke another word. Some suspected he had been given a choice: cooperate and disappear forever, or be made an example of. Others believed his death was staged entirely, that somewhere, under a different identity, he was living a new life, protected by those he had once worked for. The people who had lost millions to him wanted justice. But in the end, all they got was a dead man in a resort and a case that would never be fully explained. Javier Biosca was not the first crypto figure to meet a sudden, violent end. And he wouldn't be the last. In the world of digital fortunes, wealth is not just power, it's a target. And sometimes, the ones who know too much don't get to tell their story. Chapter 5. The Lost Millions. Gerald Cotton. Gerald Cotton was the kind of man who seemed too smart to get caught. A crypto wizard, a financial alchemist who turned digital assets into an empire. At 30 years old, he was the founder and CEO of Quadriga CX, Canada's largest cryptocurrency exchange. He was charming, elusive, and always one step ahead. Then, in December 2018, he died. Or so they say. It happened suddenly in the most unexpected place: India. Cotton and his wife had just embarked on what was supposed to be a dream honeymoon. He had reportedly been suffering from Crohn's disease, but no one ever expected it to kill him. Official reports stated he died of complications in a Jaipur hospital. leaving behind a grieving widow and a company teetering on the brink of collapse. But here's where the story takes a turn. Cotton was the sole keeper of the private keys to Quadriga CX's cold wallets, digital vaults holding over $250 million in Bitcoin, Ethereum, and other cryptocurrencies. Without those keys, the funds were inaccessible, locked away forever. When news of his death spread, panic hit the crypto world like a tidal wave. Investors scrambled for answers. Their money was gone, and with Cotton buried thousands of miles away, there was no way to retrieve it. Almost immediately, whispers of conspiracy spread like wildfire. First, there was the fact that Cotton had written his will just days before leaving for India. He left everything to his wife, including his assets, properties, and even a $100,000 trust for their 2 dogs. Then, there was the curious case of his death certificate, issued in India, riddled with inconsistencies and difficult to verify. The hospital records were vague. The body was never publicly identified. And the timing? Almost too perfect. For months, Quadriga CX assured its customers that everything would be fine. They claimed they were working on retrieving the funds, but the truth was already coming to light. The money had vanished. Blockchain analysis later showed that the cold wallets had been empty long before Cotton's alleged death. Millions had been moved out in secret, funneled through various accounts, drained through shadowy transactions. This wasn't just a tragic accident. It was a crime scene. As investigators dug deeper, they uncovered a web of deception so intricate that even the most seasoned financial fraud experts were stunned. Cotton, it turned out, had been running a Ponzi scheme. Quadriga CX wasn't a thriving exchange. It was a house of cards built on lies. He had used customer funds to trade, gamble, and cover losses. He had created fake accounts under aliases like Scepter and Seizure, moving money around to make it look like the exchange was profitable. But when the crypto market crashed in 2018, everything unraveled. And then he died, or disappeared. Theories exploded across the internet. Some believed Cotton had been poisoned, silenced by powerful people who had lost millions in his scheme. Others were convinced he had faked his death, slipping away to a tropical hideout with a new identity and a hard drive full of Bitcoin. The most audacious theory suggested his widow was in on it, that she knew more than she let on. The demand for answers grew louder. Some investors pushed for an exhumation of Cotton's body to confirm if he was even in the grave. But authorities hesitated. Too much time had passed. Too many secrets lay buried with him. Meanwhile, the lost millions remain lost. To this day, no one knows the full truth. The money was never recovered. The body was never exhumed. The story of Gerald Cotton remains one of the most bizarre, chilling mysteries in the world of cryptocurrency. And perhaps it's exactly how he planned it. Chapter 6, The Crypto Phantom, Matthew Mellon. Wealth can be a double-edged sword. In the world of cryptocurrency, where fortunes are made overnight, it can also be a death sentence. Matthew Mellon had everything: a name that carried weight, an empire built on digital currency, and a life most could only dream of. But even the richest men can be haunted by shadows. Mellon was born into one of America's most powerful banking dynasties. Heir to the Mellon banking fortune, he had been surrounded by wealth from birth, but his fortune was no inheritance. He built it himself, a rarity among the old money elite. He was an early investor in Ripple's XRP token, and when the cryptocurrency boom hit, he turned a modest stake into over $500 million. Unlike other crypto billionaires who came from tech backgrounds, Mellon had no real expertise in blockchain or finance. He had simply placed a risky bet and won. But the winnings didn't bring peace. Mellon's life was filled with excess. His money fueled a high-flying lifestyle, filled with luxury, parties, and expensive rehab stays. He battled a long history of addiction, openly admitting to spending tens of thousands of dollars a month on prescription drugs. His paranoia grew with his wealth, and he often spoke about enemies lurking in the shadows. Some thought it was the drugs talking. Others weren't so sure. In early 2018, Mellon's behavior became erratic. He claimed people were watching him, following him. He moved between different properties, shifting his location frequently. Friends noticed his growing fear, but he shrugged it off. He was used to indulgence, and paranoia came with the territory. Then, in April 2018, Mellon made a sudden decision. He would go to Mexico. He was checking into a controversial rehabilitation center in Cancun, one that specialized in ibogaine therapy, a psychedelic treatment often used for addiction. Some called it a miracle cure. Others warned of its dangers. Mellon was desperate to escape his demons, and he believed this retreat would give him a fresh start. He never made it out alive. Hours after arriving in Cancun, Mellon was dead. The official cause? A sudden heart attack. But the circumstances around his death raised questions. His body was found in his hotel room, his belongings untouched, his travel plans incomplete. There were no signs of overdose, no clear medical warnings leading up to his collapse. It was as if he had simply stopped existing. And then there was the missing money. Before his trip, Mellon had been making large cryptocurrency transactions. He had reportedly moved substantial amounts of his fortune, but after his death, his private keys, the only way to access his digital wealth, were nowhere to be found. His vast XRP fortune vanished into the digital void. Billions of dollars in cryptocurrency were effectively locked away, untouchable, untraceable. It was the perfect crime, if indeed it was one. Friends and family struggled to make sense of it. Mellon had enemies, no doubt. He had once been in talks with powerful investors and government officials regarding crypto regulations. He had been a vocal advocate for digital currency, but also a liability, a loose cannon with a dangerous amount of knowledge about the industry's underbelly. He had spoken about threats, unnamed figures who might come after him. But was his death truly suspicious? Or was it simply another tragedy in the long line of wealthy men undone by their own excesses? The theories began to swirl. Some believed Mellon had been targeted by those who wanted access to his wealth. Others thought he had staged his own disappearance, faking his death to escape the chaos of his life. With a lack of forensic evidence and no concrete answers, his case became one of crypto's most haunting mysteries. And yet, the most chilling part of Mellon's story wasn't just his death. It was the way he seemed to vanish in more ways than one. His vast fortune, his digital empire, even his presence in the crypto world, all erased in an instant. Unlike other billionaires, whose wealth remains a legacy long after they're gone, Mellon left behind only unanswered questions. His last months had been filled with warnings, with paranoia, with whispered fears of something unseen moving against him. Whether it was his mind playing tricks or a real threat closing in, no one will ever know. But one thing is certain. The world of crypto has a way of swallowing its kings, leaving only ghosts behind. Chapter 7. The Death of Dr.John Forsyth. Dr. John Forsyth was not your average emergency room doctor. By day, he saved lives, calmly navigating the chaos of a busy hospital. By night, he immersed himself in the volatile, high-stakes world of cryptocurrency. Alongside his brother, Richard, he co-founded a cryptocurrency designed to bring financial freedom to the masses. It was a lofty goal, and Forsyth was all in. But beneath the surface of his noble intentions lay danger. One morning, everything changed. Forsyth didn't show up for his shift at the hospital. It was unusual. He was known for being responsible, reliable. When his family and colleagues couldn't reach him, a wave of unease spread through those who knew him. His absence wasn't just a concern, it felt ominous. Hours turned into a day, then two. Something was wrong. The discovery of his car near a quiet lake only deepened the mystery. His belongings, phone, wallet, personal effects were found inside, but there were no signs of struggle. No broken windows, no blood. It was as if Dr. Forsyth had simply vanished into thin air. The lake, serene and still, seemed to guard its secrets. Local authorities, initially dismissing the case as a potential walkaway, grew more concerned as days passed without any trace of the missing doctor. The crypto world, where Forsyth had recently made waves, began buzzing with speculation. His son, JR, cryptically tweeted about forces beyond what you'd expect in the crypto domain. It was a statement that raised eyebrows. Forsyth had always been open about the pressures he faced as both a doctor and an entrepreneur, but this hinted at something darker, something hidden. UNFO, the currency he had founded, was not just another cryptocurrency. Unlike Bitcoin or Ethereum, ONFO operated on a viral network effect model, rewarding users for bringing others into the fold. Forsyth believed it could revolutionize the way people interacted with money, particularly in underdeveloped countries. But the crypto world is a dangerous one, filled with hackers, shadowy figures, and competitors willing to do anything to stay on top. Forsyth, it seemed, had made enemies along the way, enemies no one could pinpoint, but everyone whispered about. As the search for Forsyth intensified, strange rumors emerged. Some locals claimed they had seen a man resembling Forsyth wandering the countryside, disoriented and confused. Others suggested he had been taken, though by whom remained unclear. Theories abounded. Had he uncovered something sinister in the crypto world? Was ONFO more than just a currency, and had it attracted the wrong kind of attention? Then, weeks after his disappearance, the break everyone feared came. Forsyth's body was discovered near the same lake where his car had been found. He had been shot. The wound was clean, almost too precise. There were no signs of a struggle, no defensive wounds. To those who knew him, the idea that he had taken his own life seemed absurd. Forsyth was a man of ambition, drive, and hope for the future. But here he was, dead in the most unsettling of circumstances. The police labeled the death as suspicious, but the details were murky at best. The tight-lipped investigation fueled more speculation. Had Forsyth gotten in over his head with his cryptocurrency? Was he silenced before he could expose something? His brother Richard, devastated, refused to believe it was suicide. He wouldn't do this, he told reporters. There's more to this. Much more. As the days went by, the crypto community began to piece together fragments of information. ONFO had been gaining attention, and not all of it was good. Rivals had been watching closely, and some believed Forsyth's innovative model could disrupt the market in ways that threatened more established players. Was his death a warning? A silencing of a voice that was growing too loud? Some speculated that government interference could be involved. Cryptocurrency, after all, operates in a gray area of regulation. Forsyth's vision for financial independence through crypto may have drawn unwanted attention from those who feared the loss of control over the global financial system. Others believed the body found near the lake wasn't Forsyth's at all, that he had faked his death to escape something far more dangerous. But these theories, though tantalizing, lacked proof. What's clear is that Forsyth had entered a world where ambition and danger intersected. Cryptocurrency, for all its promises of decentralization and empowerment, is also a breeding ground for ruthless competition and, sometimes, lawlessness. Forsyth had navigated that world not as a passive player, but as a visionary, someone who wanted to change the system from the inside out. In doing so, he may have attracted the wrong kind of attention. The lake, quiet and foreboding, holds its secrets. Dr.John Forsyth's life was cut short, leaving behind questions no one has been able to answer. Was his death the result of a crypto deal gone wrong? A planned execution by shadowy figures lurking in the corners of the digital currency world? Or was it something more personal, something that slipped through the cracks of his public persona? Chapter 8. The Killing of South Korean Crypto King. Park Mo was a force to be reckoned with in South Korea's cryptocurrency world. As the vice president of Vident, a major player in the media and tech space, and the largest shareholder of Bitham, one of South Korea's top cryptocurrency exchanges, he wielded immense power and influence. His position at the nexus of two industries, media and digital currency, gave him access to the kind of knowledge and wealth that many could only dream of. But with power comes danger, and Mo's life came to a sudden, violent end. It was the early hours of December 30th, 2022, and the streets around Mo's residence were still blanketed by the cold hush of winter. But inside his home, something had gone terribly wrong. When authorities arrived, they found his body lifeless outside his residence. The scene was grim, and there was no immediate explanation. Was it an accident? Suicide? Or something far more sinister? The death sent shockwaves through South Korea's tech and financial communities. Park Mo was not just any businessman. He was a key figure in the multi-billion-dollar cryptocurrency world. But as the news of his demise spread, the whispers began. This wasn't just a tragic accident. There were dark undercurrents swirling around Mo's life in the weeks leading up to his death. At the time of his passing, Park Mo was under investigation for embezzlement and stock manipulation. Authorities were digging into financial discrepancies that hinted at foul play, millions of dollars unaccounted for, shady deals that seemed to implicate him in a web of corruption. But he wasn't just some faceless executive. He had connections, and those connections might have been pulling strings behind the scenes. Some speculated that he had crossed the wrong people. Others believed that the pressure of the investigation had simply become too much for him to bear. But there was something more, something darker, that no one wanted to say out loud. In the months leading up to his death, the cryptocurrency world had been experiencing a strange and eerie trend. One by one, prominent figures in the industry were dying under mysterious circumstances. From suicides to accidents to unexplained disappearances, the list of crypto elites meeting untimely deaths was growing. And now, with Mo's demise, that list had a new name. Mo's financial dealings were complex. As the largest shareholder of Bitham, South Korea's most influential cryptocurrency exchange, he was sitting on a gold mine. Bitham had been a cornerstone of the country's digital currency boom, facilitating billions in transactions. But the bigger the platform, the bigger the stakes, and the bigger the risks. There had been rumors of infighting within the ranks of Bitham's leadership, power struggles, backstabbing, and betrayal. It was a company with its hands in too many pockets, and when money flows like that, corruption is never far behind. Park Mo was at the heart of it all, navigating a labyrinth of deals, alliances, and rivalries. But had he gone too far? As details of his death emerged, more questions than answers surfaced. There were no signs of forced entry, no evidence of struggle. Yet, the circumstances felt off. Some said it was suicide, a desperate act by a man caught in the crosshairs of an unraveling scandal. But those close to him weren't so sure. Park Mo was a man who thrived under pressure, someone who had faced down crises before. Why would he crack now? Then came the theories. Was his death a message? A warning to others who might try to expose what was really happening in the upper echelons of the cryptocurrency world? After all, Park Mo had been at the center of some highly questionable financial activities. The investigation into embezzlement and stock manipulation was just the tip of the iceberg. There were whispers of larger conspiracies, of offshore accounts, hidden fortunes, and ties to criminal syndicates who used cryptocurrency to launder money. Mo's death wasn't just about a single man, it was about what he represented. The world of cryptocurrency was wild, volatile, and largely unregulated. It attracted risk-takers, visionaries, and, inevitably, those who operated in the shadows. Park Mo had been playing in that world for years, and perhaps, in the end, it was the shadows that got him. As investigators continued to sift through the wreckage of his financial empire, the true cause of his death remained a mystery. But for those in the know, the message was clear. The world of cryptocurrency was not just about profit and innovation. It was a world where fortunes could be made and lost in an instant, and where a life could be extinguished just as quickly. The truth behind his death may never be fully revealed, but one thing was certain: Park Mo had been playing a dangerous game, and in the end, the game had claimed him. Chapter 9. A Bitcoin billionaire dies, Mircea Popescu. Mircea Popescu was no ordinary figure in the world of cryptocurrency. He was an eccentric, larger-than-life character who, despite, or perhaps because of his controversial persona, carved out a place as one of Bitcoin's earliest adopters and fiercest proponents. His creation of the Bitcoin Securities Exchange, MPX, was groundbreaking, and his wealth ballooned as Bitcoin surged in value. By the time of his death at age 41, he reportedly controlled a fortune of over $2 billion in Bitcoin, a staggering sum that could shake the market if lost forever. But Popescu wasn't just a Bitcoin mogul. He was an enigma, a man known for his sharp intellect and an even sharper tongue, spewing offensive, hateful language in his blogs that alienated many in the crypto community. But it wasn't his writing or his wealth that thrust Popescu into the spotlight on June 23, 2021. It was his death, sudden, mysterious, and laden with the kind of intrigue that seemed straight out of a thriller. The waves off Costa Rica's Playa Hermosa were notorious for their size and power. It was a paradise, but a dangerous one. At 8:30 a.m. that morning, Popescu went for a swim, as he often did. But this time, he never came back. His body was found washed ashore, lifeless. The official cause of death was drowning. But for a man as controversial and wealthy as Popescu, the story couldn't possibly be that simple. Almost immediately, speculation swirled. Had it been an accident? Or had something darker taken place? Playa Hermosa, with its violent waves and strong currents, was not a place for amateur swimmers. But Popescu, it seemed, was no stranger to risk. He had made a career of it, navigating the treacherous, unregulated waters of early cryptocurrency trading, accumulating vast amounts of Bitcoin when few dared to invest. To those who followed his erratic and inflammatory blog posts, his death in such an unforgiving place felt eerily fitting. But was there more to the story? Some whispered that foul play might have been involved. Popescu's fortune was astronomical. $2 billion in Bitcoin isn't just money, it's power, and power attracts enemies. He had more than his fair share of those, from rivals in the crypto space to critics infuriated by his toxic rhetoric. It wasn't hard to imagine someone wanting him gone, especially with the tantalizing possibility of accessing his massive Bitcoin holdings. And then there was the question on everyone's mind. What would happen to his fortune? Popescu was notoriously secretive. It was widely believed that he held the keys to his Bitcoin fortune personally, without sharing access with anyone else. In the world of cryptocurrency, losing the private keys to a wallet means losing the fortune inside forever. The possibility that over $2 billion in Bitcoin could be lost, vanishing into the digital abyss, sent shockwaves through the market. If no one had access to his private keys, Popescu's death could mean the permanent disappearance of one of the largest Bitcoin fortunes in the world. For days, the speculation spiraled. Could someone have coerced Popescu into revealing his private keys before his death? Was his drowning truly an accident? Or had he been forced into the water to die, taking his secrets with him? If his Bitcoin was truly lost, what would that mean for the cryptocurrency market? The sheer size of Popescu's holdings was enough to move the market. A sudden dump of those coins could have crashed Bitcoin's price. Their permanent disappearance could have the opposite effect, increasing scarcity and driving prices higher. But the mystery deepened with each passing day. No one came forward with any knowledge of his private keys. There were no clues, no hidden notes, no whispers of a will that detailed how to access his fortune. It seemed that, like the man himself, Popescu's Bitcoin had vanished into the shadows, leaving nothing but questions behind. Popescu had lived on the edge, and he had died on the edge too. His life was a roller coaster of extreme wealth, unfiltered opinion, and dangerous enemies. And in the end, the sea had claimed him, along with his fortune. To this day, no one knows the full truth. The waves of Playa Hermosa, wild and unforgiving, had taken Mircea Popescu and washed away the answers. Did he simply make a fatal mistake in the water that morning? Or was there more to his death than met the eye? Whatever the truth, Popescu's death remains one of the great unsolved mysteries of the cryptocurrency world. His Bitcoin, if lost forever, could remain a ghostly fortune, locked away in the blockchain, inaccessible to anyone. And as long as that possibility exists, the legend of Mircea Popescu will continue to haunt the world of digital currency, a chilling reminder of the fine line between wealth, power, and the unknown. Chapter 10. The McAfee Story. John McAfee was a man who lived on the edge. A tech pioneer, once hailed as the king of antivirus software, McAfee's life took a dark, bizarre turn in his later years. His genius, eccentricity, and deep paranoia made him both a captivating and terrifying figure. But it wasn't just his controversial persona or his brushes with the law that made him infamous. It was his entanglement with the world of cryptocurrency that pushed him further into the realm of mystery and danger. And in the end, his death only added to the swirling clouds of conspiracy. McAfee's career began in the early days of Silicon Valley, where he made his fortune by founding McAfee Associates, the antivirus company that would forever bear his name. He became a multi-millionaire, an icon in the tech world. But as his wealth grew, so did his eccentricity. In the early 2010s, McAfee left the corporate world, diving headfirst into a wild, nomadic lifestyle filled with drugs, guns, and shady dealings. He reinvented himself as a libertarian fugitive, a man constantly on the run from what he claimed were shadowy government forces out to get him. Then came cryptocurrency. Always an opportunist, McAfee saw the potential in Bitcoin and other digital currencies early on. He proclaimed that cryptocurrency was the future of money and positioned himself as a crusader for decentralized finance, railing against banks and governments. He started promoting obscure cryptocurrencies, endorsing them through his Twitter account, causing their values to skyrocket overnight. Some claimed he was manipulating the market for his own gain. His tweets became cryptic, loaded with secret messages and veiled threats. McAfee was no longer just a tech mogul. He had become a high-stakes player in the murky world of cryptocurrency. But with McAfee, nothing was ever simple. As his influence grew, so did the controversy. By 2019, he was on the run again, this time accused of tax evasion and fraud. He was living on his yacht, hopping from one country to another, avoiding extradition to the United States. He claimed he was being persecuted by the CIA, that the powers that be wanted to silence him because of what he knew about the government's secret involvement in the cryptocurrency world. He spoke of hidden truths, of corruption and control, all cloaked in his usual cryptic language. It was impossible to tell what was real and what was the paranoid ramblings of a man who had spent too long in the shadows. Things took a darker turn in October 2020 when McAfee was arrested in Spain at the request of U.S. authorities. He was facing extradition to the U.S. on charges of tax evasion. As he sat in a Spanish jail cell, awaiting his fate, McAfee's behavior grew even more erratic. He posted cryptic messages online, claiming he would never take his own life, that if he were found dead, it would be the result of foul play. He even got a tattoo on his arm that read "Dollar Whacked," a reference to his belief that he was marked for assassination by powerful forces. Then, on June 23, 2021, the news broke. John McAfee was found dead in his prison cell. Spanish authorities declared it a suicide by hanging. The timing was suspicious. Just hours before, a Spanish court had approved his extradition to the United States. To many, it was the final chapter of McAfee's wild, dangerous life. But to others, it was just the beginning of a deeper mystery. Immediately, the conspiracy theories flooded the internet. McAfee's final tweet before his death had warned of exactly this, that he would be suicided to keep him quiet. His cryptic messages about knowing too much, his tattoos, his claims of government corruption, it all seemed to point to something far more sinister. Some believed that McAfee had been silenced because of what he knew about powerful players in the cryptocurrency world. Others suggested that he had faked his own death, disappearing into the digital shadows with his Bitcoin fortune. And then there was the mystery of his cryptocurrency fortune. It was rumored that McAfee had amassed a significant stash of Bitcoin, but no one could confirm the amount. Some speculated it was worth hundreds of millions, perhaps even billions. If McAfee had the private keys to his crypto wallets, they could be lost forever, or they could be sitting in the hands of those who helped orchestrate his demise, if that's what truly happened. McAfee's widow, Janice, refused to believe the official story. She publicly stated that her husband had shown no signs of suicidal intent and demanded an investigation. But the truth remains elusive. Was McAfee a man who simply cracked under the weight of his own chaos? Or was he silenced by the powerful enemies he had made in the volatile world of cryptocurrency and beyond? In the end, John McAfee's death mirrors the life he led, wild, unpredictable, and steeped in conspiracy. His legacy, much like the cryptocurrencies he championed, remains shrouded in mystery. And as long as his story continues to be told, the questions surrounding his demise will linger, unanswered, in the shadowy corners of the digital world. Chapter 11, A Cascade of Deaths. A series of mysterious deaths among some of crypto's most powerful and influential figures have sent shivers through the industry, casting a shadow over the digital frontier. These untimely ends, shrouded in ambiguity and suspicion, create a chilling portrait of a space where vast wealth meets a precarious and, at times, deadly existence. Let's delve into some more of these enigmatic deaths. Vyacheslav Turan, a prominent crypto tycoon with significant ties to the digital finance world, was no stranger to both wealth and risk. His name was well known in crypto circles, and his influence extended across the industry. However, in November 2022, his life came to a sudden and brutal end in a helicopter crash while traveling from Switzerland to Monaco. The crash shocked the crypto community, but it wasn't just the loss of one of its titans that raised eyebrows. It was the circumstances surrounding the crash itself. The flight plan had been carefully laid out. The journey seemed routine. So, why had it ended in tragedy? Was it a freak accident, a mechanical failure, or something far more sinister? The more people dug into the details, the more troubling questions arose. Some whispered that Turan's death might not have been accidental at all. Could it have been orchestrated by those seeking to silence him or seize control of his vast crypto assets? Turan had been involved in high-stakes financial dealings, and with the amount of money and power that was at play, the idea that his death could have been more deliberate than random began to circulate. The abrupt nature of the crash, the meticulous flight plan, and Turan's connection to the often dangerous world of high finance have led to speculation that his death may have been more than just a tragic accident. For now, the truth remains buried in the wreckage of that fateful flight. Just weeks after Turan's death, another prominent figure in the crypto world met an untimely end. At only 30 years old, Tian Cullender, the co-founder of Amber Group, was considered a visionary in the fast-paced, ever-evolving world of digital finance. His innovative approach and sharp mind had helped build Amber Group into a highly successful company, one that was blazing a trail in the crypto space. But in November 2022, Cullender's promising career was tragically cut short when he was found dead in his sleep under mysterious circumstances. There were no signs of foul play, no forced entry, no struggle, no outward cause of death. Cullender's sudden passing sent shockwaves through the crypto community, and speculation quickly arose. How could someone so young, healthy, and successful meet such a sudden end? Was his death simply a tragic, unexplained event? Or was there something lurking beneath the surface? Theories began to swirl about the potential dangers within the very system Cullender had helped build. Could unseen, silent threats have taken him out? Threats that operated behind the scenes in the shadowy world of crypto? The lack of answers only deepened the mystery. Cullender's death left a void, and with it came unsettling questions about the real dangers that may hide in the digital finance landscape. Bob Lee, the founder of Cash App and a key player in the world of digital payments, was a titan in his own right. Lee had made a name for himself by helping to revolutionize the way money moved in the digital age. But in April 2023, his life ended abruptly under circumstances that remain deeply murky. Police found him unconscious in the Rincon Hill neighborhood with 2 stab wounds to his chest. He died later in hospital, although a San Francisco jury has convicted a tech entrepreneur on charges of second-degree murder. Lee's death became one of the most debated mysteries in the cryptosphere. Details were scarce, and conflicting reports only fueled speculation. Some said it was a targeted attack. Others claimed it was simply a tragic, isolated incident. Yet, with Lee's deep involvement in both the tech and crypto worlds, it became clear that his death was more than just another statistic. His position at the pinnacle of digital innovation made him a target, both in the virtual world and in reality. Even the most powerful figures in the crypto ecosystem, it seemed, were not safe from the dark forces that swirled around this volatile industry. In August 2023, Yevgeny Prigozhin, a controversial Russian figure with ties to mercenary groups and political influence, died in a private plane crash near Moscow. The crash was suspicious from the start, and Prigozhin's death added another unsettling layer to the growing list of crypto-related tragedies. Prigozhin was no ordinary man. His name was synonymous with power and control, both in the political arena and in the shadowy world of crypto. It was his alleged connection to a significant Bitcoin wallet that raised eyebrows, leading many to believe his death was part of a larger, more sinister pattern. There were whispers that Russian security services were involved, especially considering Prigozhin's previous fallout with Putin. Could his demise have been a result of political retribution? Or was it tied to the vast sums of money he controlled in the crypto world? The plane crash, rife with suspicious details, left many questioning whether Prigozhin had fallen victim to forces far beyond his control. The connection to cryptocurrency only deepened the mystery, and while some see his death as politically motivated, others wonder if the digital fortune he controlled played a role in his untimely end. The truth, as with many of these cases, may never fully come to light. Chapter 12: Possible Culprits, the Criminal Syndicates. The world of organized crime has long been a realm of ruthless power plays, blood-soaked allegiances, and brutal enforcement. In this shadowy underworld, the rules are simple. You either play by them, or you perish. Historically, these syndicates thrived on illegal enterprises, drugs, weapons, extortion. But today, their playground has expanded to an even more lucrative, less tangible frontier: cryptocurrency. The rise of digital wealth has attracted more than just tech-savvy entrepreneurs. It's drawn the attention of powerful criminal syndicates who see the world of crypto as the ultimate prize, a place where anonymous transactions can be made, vast fortunes hoarded in digital wallets, and the traditional constraints of law enforcement are easily bypassed. But with great wealth comes great danger, and for those in the crypto world, the threat from these ruthless organizations is terrifyingly real. Imagine the cold, calculating might of the Italian mafia, the kind of organization that has ruled with an iron fist for generations. Now picture them evolving, adapting their blood-soaked tactics to the digital age. The mafia has always thrived on control of territory, control of information, and most importantly, control of wealth. As the reach of traditional crime syndicates has extended into the online sphere, it's not hard to imagine crypto moguls becoming targets of extortion, or worse, elimination. History is rife with examples of mobsters sending chilling messages to those who dared challenge their power. In the 1980s, the infamous mafia boss Salvatore Toto Riina unleashed a wave of violence across Sicily, leaving a trail of bodies as a reminder of the mafia's dominance. His message was clear: defy us and you die. In today's world, where crypto billionaires flaunt their wealth and power online, it isn't hard to see how such individuals could easily catch the eye of syndicates like the mafia. But the mafia isn't alone in this digital turf war. Enter the Yakuza, Japan's notorious organized crime group. Rooted in an ironclad code of loyalty and honor, the Yakuza has long dominated Japan's criminal underworld. Historically known for their control over illicit businesses, they've now expanded into the cyber world, adapting their age-old principles of extortion and intimidation to a new age of digital riches. Just as they would once enforce loyalty through violent means, cutting off fingers for betrayal, they may now target crypto entrepreneurs, delivering a new kind of threat through encrypted messages and dark web warnings. The Yakuza's rise to power has always been characterized by a blend of brutality and respect for their traditions. However, with the allure of cryptocurrency offering the potential for vast and anonymous wealth, the once impermeable boundary between the physical and digital worlds is starting to blur. For these syndicates, the end goal is always the same: control by any means necessary. Picture this: a crypto tycoon wakes up to find an anonymous message waiting in their inbox. The contents are chillingly simple: pay up, or we'll make sure you disappear. In the traditional world, a mafia soldier might show up at a business owner's doorstep demanding protection money. In the digital age, the approach is much more efficient, less physical but no less deadly. With just a few clicks, a vast fortune can be erased, siphoned off into untraceable wallets, or worse, held hostage until the victim complies. This is the new form of digital extortion. Criminal syndicates no longer need to leave a bloody trail behind them to make their point. They can control everything from behind the veil of anonymity, issuing ultimatums, crashing servers, or freezing wallets. And when the victim refuses to pay, well, that's when things get even darker. The transition from traditional extortion to cyber extortion has been seamless for these syndicates. In the past, they could burn down a shop or send a brutal enforcer to deliver a message. Now, they simply send a virus, or worse, track down the physical whereabouts of the crypto figure they're targeting. In the digital underworld, Death isn't always immediate. It can be slow, insidious, like the disappearance of one's entire fortune or the gradual erosion of one's safety. The most terrifying part? Many victims don't even know they're being targeted until it's too late. The syndicates are experts at staying one step ahead, striking when their prey is most vulnerable. And in the decentralized, unregulated world of crypto, where there is no central authority to appeal to, the power of these criminal organizations is only growing. In whispers on the dark web and in speculative threads across crypto forums, tales of vanished figures abound. Stories of crypto entrepreneurs who rose too quickly, flaunted their success too openly, and paid the price. Some vanished overnight. Their last known location, a high-end penthouse in a glamorous city. Others fell off the radar after a string of encrypted threats from unknown sources, their digital wallets untouched since their disappearance. One such rumor involves a crypto mogul who was reportedly abducted after refusing to pay a cut of his profits to a criminal syndicate. He had ignored the warnings, digital threats that appeared on his phone in the middle of the night, shadowy figures lurking outside his lavish home. Days later, his body was found in a remote location, his death staged to look like an accident. But those in the know whispered that this was no accident. It was a brutal reminder of what happens when you disrespect the digital turf of powerful criminal networks. Another speculative tale involves a high-profile developer who had been working on an uncrackable encryption algorithm. He had boasted that his creation would make digital wallets truly untouchable, even from the prying eyes of law enforcement or hackers. But as soon as word of his work spread, he received a cryptic message: "Stop, or we'll stop you." Days later, his apartment was found ransacked, his computer equipment destroyed, and the developer himself was never seen again. These stories might sound like the stuff of fiction, but in the world of crypto, the line between reality and nightmare is thin. Organized crime syndicates, whether it's the mafia, the yakuza, or others, are no strangers to violence. And in the digital age, their methods have evolved. Respect their turf, pay their price, or risk becoming another ghost in the dark underbelly of digital wealth. Chapter 13: Possible Culprits, State Services. In the cloak and dagger world of intelligence agencies, there's no room for mistakes. These shadowy operatives, often operating under the guise of national security, have long been skilled in eliminating anyone who threatens the status quo. From Cold War assassinations to modern covert operations, governments have proven time and again that no one is beyond their reach. Now, as the world of cryptocurrency threatens to destabilize the traditional financial systems, could these state services be turning their sights on crypto moguls who represent rebellion? Step into the darkness, where power, paranoia, and precision collide in a deadly game of life and death. Crypto billionaires may enjoy wealth and fame, but in the shadows lurk government operatives, experts in the art of silent elimination, ready to strike without warning. The Cold War was a battleground not just for ideologies but for bodies. Intelligence agencies like the CIA, KGB, and MI6 operated with ruthless efficiency, and their targets were anyone seen as a threat to their respective governments. Assassinations were disguised as accidents, and disappearances were never questioned. One famous example is the fate of Che Guevara, the revolutionary who became a global symbol of defiance. Che's fiery speeches and guerrilla tactics made him an enemy of the state. His capture and execution in 1967 weren't just about silencing a man, they were a message to the world. Step out of line and you're next. Now, imagine that same level of precision and determination turned toward the crypto space. Governments, threatened by the decentralized nature of cryptocurrencies, may see crypto billionaires as modern-day anarchists. These are people with wealth beyond imagination, but more crucially, they hold the power to undermine traditional banking systems, systems that governments and intelligence agencies are sworn to protect. And as history has shown, when the status quo is threatened, state services don't hesitate to act. The toolbox of an intelligence agency is filled with dark tricks, disappearances, staged accidents, heart attacks induced by unseen hands. During the Cold War, such methods were commonplace. Dissidents would suddenly vanish, their deaths later reported as freak accidents or suicides. Take, for instance, the infamous case of Bulgarian dissident Georgy Markov, killed in London in 1978 by an umbrella tip laced with poison. It was a subtle, chilling message. No matter where you are, you're never beyond our reach. Now, translate these techniques into the world of cryptocurrency. Helicopter crashes, like those involving prominent business figures, are often dismissed as tragic mishaps. But what if there's something more sinister? What if the pilot didn't lose control, but was deliberately incapacitated by forces working in the shadows? Or consider plane crashes, another convenient method for eliminating those too powerful or too rebellious. It's a cold, calculated operation, a masterstroke of state engineering where no loose ends are left behind. Crypto billionaires aren't just targets because of their money. They represent a financial rebellion, a shift toward decentralization that could weaken national currencies and destabilize economies. To state services, this makes them threats, not just to their own wealth, but to the larger, carefully constructed order. To eliminate such individuals is to eliminate the threat they pose, while keeping the illusion of a tragic accident intact. In the world of cryptocurrency, rumors swirl of figures receiving anonymous warnings, sometimes subtle, sometimes explicit. These warnings often come through encrypted messages, arriving in the dead of night, leaving no trace of who sent them. The message is clear, though: stay in line or else. Some laugh off these threats as pranks from rival competitors. Others take them seriously, going off the grid, retreating into fortified homes, or disappearing from the public eye altogether. One crypto leader was reportedly told in a coded message to shut down his blockchain project or face the consequences. A few weeks later, while on a private vacation, he narrowly escaped a car accident that left him shaken but unharmed. He later remarked, with a nervous laugh, that he was beginning to wonder whether the brakes had really malfunctioned or whether someone had tampered with them. Another chilling incident involved a crypto CEO who had been vocal about state corruption and government collusion with financial institutions. He was found dead under mysterious circumstances in his luxurious apartment. The official report cited a sudden illness, but those close to him knew he had no prior health issues. Rumors began to circulate that he had been poisoned, an all-too-familiar tactic used by state operatives in the past. The eerie parallels between these incidents and historical covert operations are hard to ignore. Intelligence agencies have long blurred the line between paranoia and reality. And in the murky world of cryptocurrency, where fortunes can vanish in a heartbeat, fear runs deep. The modern state services don't operate like the agents of yesteryear. Now, with technology on their side, they've mastered the art of omnipresent surveillance. Through satellite tracking, phone tapping, and digital surveillance, they know where you are and what you're doing at any given moment. Crypto figures, especially those with dissenting voices, might find their emails hacked, their phones tapped, and their every move watched. The tools of the trade may have changed, but the mission remains the same: to protect national interests at any cost. But surveillance is only the beginning. In the digital age, state operatives can deliver strikes with pinpoint accuracy. A subtle keystroke could trigger a virus that wipes out an entire digital fortune, or a fake identity could lure an unsuspecting individual into a deadly trap. Governments have the resources, the manpower, and the knowledge to stage accidents that look so convincing. Even the closest family members wouldn't suspect foul play. The history of covert operations is littered with bodies, figures who were silenced before their influence could spread too far. State services, once preoccupied with eliminating political dissidents, may now be turning their focus to the financial dissidents of the crypto world. To them, a decentralized financial system is more than just a threat. It's an existential crisis. And when existential crises arise, they respond with silent elimination. Chapter 14, Possible Culprits, the Shadow Elite. In the hidden chambers of power, a war is brewing. It's not fought with armies or on battlefields, but in boardrooms, encrypted messages, and clandestine deals. This war pits the old world elite, an ancient, shadowy group of financiers and aristocrats, against a new generation of digital titans. Crypto billionaires, with their flashiness, bold moves, and decentralized dreams, are the new enemies in the eyes of those who have controlled wealth and influence for centuries. And when old money fights back, the consequences are swift, brutal, and often invisible. Throughout history, the struggle for power has always been vicious, especially when that power is challenged. One need only look at the Puzzi conspiracy in Renaissance Florence to understand the lengths to which elites will go to protect their dominance. In 1478, the Puzzi family, feeling threatened by the rise of the Medici, orchestrated an audacious plan to assassinate the family's leaders. The Medici, with their banking empire and influence over the papacy, were seen as dangerous usurpers of power. The result? A blood-soaked conspiracy, church assassinations, and a city plunged into chaos. Now imagine that same level of intrigue and bloodlust, but brought into the modern era. The players are no longer families wearing cloaks and plotting in dimly lit courtyards, but old guard financiers in tailored suits who wield influence over global markets. Their weapons? Backdoor deals, political connections, and decades of entrenched control. Their targets? The crypto mavericks who threaten to upend the financial world they've carefully built and maintained for generations. This isn't just a battle over money. It's a battle over the future of power itself. The shadow elite, descendants of bankers, aristocrats, and industrialists, look upon the rise of decentralized currencies and blockchain technology with disdain. To them, the notion of financial freedom outside their control is an existential threat, much like the rise of the Medici was to the Puzzi. Behind closed doors, in private clubs and members-only boardrooms, the old guard meets in secret to discuss the world's shifting financial landscape. These are the places where cigars are smoked, aged whiskey is sipped, and fortunes are decided. The air is thick with tradition, but it's also thick with fear. Fear that the world they've controlled for so long is slipping through their fingers, replaced by a world of decentralized, peer-to-peer transactions that they cannot manipulate. And so the ultimatums begin. For a crypto billionaire who flaunts his wealth on social media, the warnings might come subtly at first. A call from an anonymous source advising caution. A meeting request from a mysterious, well-connected figure offering advice on staying low. But when these warnings are ignored, the stakes escalate. It's not just about advising caution anymore, it's about issuing threats. These aren't crude threats made in the open. They come in whispers through encrypted channels or sometimes delivered in person by emissaries who represent powerful families. The message is always the same. You're playing with fire. Step back or you'll get burned. But how does a crypto billionaire, accustomed to living in the fast lane and pushing boundaries, interpret these threats? For some, it's a challenge, a sign that they've made it into the upper echelons of power. For others, it's the beginning of a nightmare. The rumors swirl in hushed circles about the crypto figures who've gone head-to-head with the shadow elite. Some claim that high-profile crypto magnates have received anonymous packages containing cryptic warnings, messages with historical quotes from those who dared to defy the elite in the past. Others have reportedly faced more direct forms of intimidation. Take, for example, the case of a Chinese crypto entrepreneur who disappeared for several months after making headlines for his bold statements about breaking the old system. He had publicly spoken about the irrelevance of traditional banking and mocked the old world financiers who couldn't grasp the future. Just weeks after those remarks, he vanished from the public eye. His social media accounts went silent, his company's operations ceased, and rumors spread that he had been coerced into silence. When he finally reappeared, his tone had changed dramatically. No more bold proclamations. No more talk of overthrowing the financial establishment. Instead, he issued a vague statement about personal health reasons and quietly stepped down from his leadership position. Then there are those who didn't heed the warnings at all and paid the ultimate price. One chilling example involves a lesser-known crypto figure based in Dubai whose life took a downward spiral after a confrontation with an influential financial family. He had made a name for himself by criticizing the role of central banks in economic crises. A few weeks after a particularly fiery public debate, his company was hit with a series of inexplicable legal challenges. Soon after, his home was broken into, and while nothing was stolen, the message was clear: back off, or worse will come. Within months, he declared bankruptcy and disappeared from the financial world entirely. No one knows where he is now. These high-stakes confrontations serve as stark reminders of the unseen hand that guides global finance. The shadow elite may not make their presence known publicly, but their influence is felt in every corner of the financial world. And for the crypto rebels who think they can disrupt that power, the consequences are deadly. The shadow elite have mastered the art of invisibility. They operate behind layers of front companies, offshore accounts, and trusted intermediaries. You won't find their names in the tabloids or on the covers of magazines. Their influence is quiet but omnipresent. When they decide to move against a crypto billionaire, it's like the shifting of tectonic plates, slow, deliberate, and devastating. In this battle between old money and new wealth, the rules are clear. Disrupt the system, and you'll be dealt with. The crypto world is fast-paced, reckless, and bold. But the old guard? They are patient. They've played the long game for centuries, and they're not about to let a few digital upstarts undermine the foundations they've built. The shadow elite have no need to raise their voices. Their power is felt in the whispered warnings, in the mysterious disappearances, in the sudden reversals of fortune. For those who dare challenge them, there's only one lesson to learn. When old money fights back, it fights to win, and it always plays for keeps.